In the midst of the Cold War between NATO and Russia, amidst the tension and secrecy, European intelligence agencies, through cyber espionage, intercepted communications between Russians and remnants of the defeated Nazi regime. The discussion centered around a mysterious discovery in Antarctica, an artifact named Prometheus, rumored to be of extraterrestrial origin. The Nazis had always been obsessed with occult artifacts and unexplained phenomena, guiding their relentless pursuit of power. Communications between the two parties had abruptly stopped, and the founders had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and intrigue. The Americans, too, were intrigued by the whispers of Prometheus. They believed the artifact held the key to humanity's origins, a connection to ancient astronauts or extraterrestrial beings. Its name, borrowed from Greek mythology, hinted at advanced technology, propulsion systems that defied gravity, energy sources that could revolutionize the world, and knowledge that transcended the boundaries of human understanding. In the end, it was a collaborative effort. Scientists from various nations, once divided by ideology, came together to decode the mysteries of Prometheus. A covert operation was launched. European agents, aided by their American counterparts, embarked on a perilous journey to Antarctica, braving the harsh polar conditions in pursuit of the elusive artifact.
ETA 5 clicks.
The bitter Antarctic wind howled outside the makeshift research station, a relentless force that gnawed at the edges of sanity. Dr. Emma Carter, a woman driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge, stood before the colossal ice shelf. Her breath materialized in the frigid air, hanging like a ghostly specter before dissipating into nothingness, her eyes wide with anticipation.
My name is Emma Carter. I was contracted by the Air Force as a SERE. It's an acronym for Survival, Evasion, Resistance, Escape Program. I'm basically a survival specialist. I'm here to make sure the 4 scientists that were seated beside me on the helicopter stay alive on this expedition. The cold Antarctica air felt refreshing after being stuck in the small helicopter cabin with strangers. There was an unspoken tension in the air, as none of us really know each other. We exchanged polite nods and half-hearted smiles, attempting to break the ice, but without much success. Imagine how fun it's going to be to practically live out here, sharing a small outpost with these guys, in the middle of nowhere. However, I came prepared. I bought along an SSD card full of movies to keep me occupied. I might sound a little antisocial, I know, but from my personal experience as a survival specialist, in unpredictable survival scenarios, you can't rely on or trust anyone. In essence, my solitude is a strategic approach to ensuring my safety. As we huddled together like penguins in the vast frozen expanse, in the distance I could hear the rumble of engines. It was the military Arctic trucks sent to pick us up and take us to base. I felt a sense of relief, knowing that soon I'd be heading to the warmth and safety of our new base and get some well-deserved rest after traveling 10,000 miles. The 2 Arctic trucks had space for only 3 individuals in each vehicle. As we were a group of 5, I instructed for 2 of the guys in our group to hitch a ride in the vehicle furthest from the group and lead the couple closest to me into the adjacent truck. The cold air stung my cheeks as I approached the waiting trucks. My footsteps crunched on the snow as I made my way into the warm vehicle. Inside, it was surprisingly comfortable. The cabin even had cup holders. My only complaint would be due to the limited space at the back. The 3 of us were rubbing shoulders against each other, making it a struggle for me to find a comfortable position. Likewise, the man sitting next to me accidentally stepped on my boots a couple times and was quick to apologize.
Hey, I'm really sorry about that.
He said, extending his hand towards me.
By the way, I'm Mikey. Nice to meet you.
He introduced himself with a friendly smile.
I'm the propulsions expert, and this is my wife and assistant, Mary.
He said, gesturing towards the woman that had looped her arm through his, drawing herself close to him, seeking warmth and solace. It was cute. We didn't talk much after that. Looking out the window, the endless expanse of ice and snow blurred past. I was captivated by the unforgiving nature. until something caught my eye. A figure standing alone, isolated, and motionless in the distance. My heart skipped a beat as I tried to comprehend what I was seeing. It's impossible for someone to survive alone way out here in this extreme, desolate environment. As the vehicle continued its journey, the figure remained fixed in my vision until it disappeared behind a snowy hill. I tried to make sense of it. The unending whiteness of the landscape must have been playing tricks on me. A desolate environment can trigger psychological stressors, leading to hallucinations as a coping mechanism for extreme solitude. The logical part of my brain urged me to dismiss it as a hallucination. I closed my eyes, resting my head against the truck window to catch some rest before we reached base. When our expedition finally reached camp, the military trucks rolled to a stop. I could see the base nestled against the icy backdrop, a cluster of sturdy structures. My group and I exited the vehicles, stepping onto the frozen ground, carrying our heavy waterproof duffel bags. The rush of cold air stung my cheeks, reminding me of the harshness of this unforgiving environment. Amongst the flurry of activity, a figure approached us. It was the colonel. His crisp uniform stood out, exuding a commanding presence.
Welcome, everybody. I need you all to unpack swiftly. We have a briefing scheduled on health and safety protocols in an hour, in the lounge. Do not be late.
He ordered and spun on his heels, turning and marching off. On first impressions, I didn't like the guy, but then I've always had a problem with authoritative figures, and this guy was now at the top of that list. I was the person in charge of presenting the health and safety briefing, me being the survival specialist. Without delay, I went into the base and found my room number written on a white board, alongside my name. Once in my room, I began to unpack, fueled by the urgency of the impending meeting. I wish we could have got some food and sleep before the briefing, but as usual, the military prioritizes the mission. After hastily settling into our accommodations, the team gathered in the designated area, the lounge. The lounge was a large space, a place of sanctuary. At its center stood a large pool table. Along one wall, shelves stacked with a collection of books ranging from gripping novels and scientific journals. They offered an escape from the Antarctic, allowing us to lose ourselves in tales of adventure. I had my SSD full of movies for that. Dominating another corner was a large screen TV, a lifeline connecting us to the outside world to follow sports and news. Maybe for some movie nights it could encourage gatherings and team building. At the heart of the lounge stood a colossal table for communal meals, discussions, and planning. It was the hub of social interactions. All in all, it was quite cozy, but I think I'd prefer staying in my room most of the time, in my own private bubble. The briefing went smoothly. I informed the group about less obvious protocols that were important for surviving Antarctica. Things like keeping hydrated. You wouldn't think it, but the air in Antarctica is so dry, your body loses water by just breathing. Also, it's important to wear sunscreen and absolutely no cotton socks. Cotton kills out here. Wet cotton gets cold and allows bacteria to grow, which can cause an infection like athlete's foot, except it's way worse. It's called trench foot, and it could lead you to lose your toes. After my briefing, the colonel stood at the forefront, commanding attention as he gave us the mission briefing.
Listen up, everyone.
He began, his words cutting through the tense silence.
We've intercepted communications from a Nazi-Russian alliance facility codenamed Prometheus, where they've stumbled upon extraterrestrial technology that could tip the scales in the arms race. Our satellite imagery has revealed that all activity at base Prometheus has ceased. Communications went dark, leaving us in the dark about what we might encounter there. Your mission begins tomorrow at 2300 hours. First objective, investigate the Nazi-Russian base, approximately 10 clicks from our position. Second objective, retrieve any intel on Prometheus and seize any related hardware. There's uncertainty about survivors.
He added, his expression serious.
Our high-tech Special Forces team and I will handle any potential hostiles. They'll receive a separate briefing. This is a top-secret black op. Don't expect any external support.
The gravity of our mission sank in. We were stepping into uncharted territory. The briefing concluded, leaving me to contemplate the mystery behind Prometheus. Potential dangers, ancient truths, Frickin' aliens. After the briefing concluded, I prepared myself a quick dinner before heading to the communal table in the base's lounge. The prospect of delving into the mysterious details of our upcoming mission with Mikey and his wife, Mary, excited me. As we engaged in conversation, a couple of familiar faces from the helicopter ride joined our table, introducing themselves as Aaron and James. James, an archaeologist, was charming, while Aaron appeared a touch reserved, silently observing our group discussions.
Did anyone wonder why our superiors are calling the Russian Nazi base Prometheus?
Asked James, grinning at me. The question was intended for the group, I assume, but it was clear his focus was on me. Maybe you could enlighten us, James?
Well, does anyone know the context of Prometheus?
James asked again, this time looking around the table at our teammates.
The term Prometheus is often associated with space exploration. For instance, there's a moon of Saturn called Prometheus.
Explained Mikey, slightly annoyed.
Wrong! You're such a bloody nerd. In Greek mythology, Prometheus was a titan known as a benefactor of humankind. According to the myth, Prometheus stole fire from God and gave it to humanity, leading to significant advancements. Now fire could be an analogy for knowledge or technology.
Let me get this straight. You're proposing that aliens created us, passed down technology, essentially making aliens our gods? Correct me if I'm mistaken. Are we out here searching for our creators?
Inquired Mikey, shooting a puzzled look at James.
Maybe. I mean, nobody really knows?
Responded James, his arms spreading wide, a gesture implying his confidence in his viewpoint.
Personally, I believe in God's creation, not little green men.
Mikey asserted, his frustration evident as he glanced toward James, seeking reassurance from his wife.
How ironic, considering you're a scientist here investigating green men.
Chuckled James, finding the situation amusing. The atmosphere was lively, everyone seemed pleasant and open to discussion. James, however, decided to take the conversation in a more personal direction, flashing a mischievous grin in my direction.
So, Emma, care to share a bit about yourself? How does your husband feel about you being away, surrounded by a bunch of lads?
I couldn't help but chuckle at his assumption. I don't have a husband, James, I replied, anticipating where his line of questioning might lead. His grin widened and he continued.
Ah, a boyfriend then?
No boyfriend either, I clarified. A teasing tone edged into his voice.
Could it be a girlfriend then?
The playful banter made me smile, but I swiftly responded, no, not a girlfriend either.
So, how does a woman as intelligent and attractive as you end up alone in this world?
The playful banter between us took an unexpected turn, interrupted abruptly as the lights flickered and plunged the room into utter darkness. Gasps rippled through our group, enveloping us in an eerie silence. Within moments, the backup floodlights flashed on and off, briefly illuminating the room before fading away along with the darkness.
It's just a power outage, folks. Keeps us on our toes.
Joked a lieutenant, attempting to lighten the tension. Relief washed over me as the lights came back on. Glancing around the table, I realized Aaron had disappeared. I dismissed his absence, assuming he had stepped out unnoticed in the chaos. My mind was more occupied with the unsettling feeling of our Antarctic mission to raid a potential Nazi base with rumored alien connections. I bid my farewells to Mikey, Mary, and James, and made my way back to my quarters, the mission's gravity weighing on my mind. Knowing tomorrow's late start for the mission, fatigue from the travel settled in, urging me to seek rest for an alert mind the next day. On my way to bed, I paused by the window, peering out into the moonlit expanse of snow. Memories of the figure I'd glimpsed earlier in the day lingered, an eerie feeling creeping up my spine at the thought. I attempted to convince myself that it was merely a product of my weary imagination. Taking a deep breath to dispel the unease, I shook off the haunting thoughts and continued to my bed, knowing that a well-rested mind would be crucial for the challenges that lay ahead. The following day, I woke up and gathered with our team, Mikey, Mary, James, and, oh my God, Aaron. Aaron was conspicuously absent. Approaching James, who happened to be Aaron's bunkmate, I asked him about Aaron's whereabouts. His expression mirrored my concern. He told me that Aaron hadn't returned to their bunk last night. This was alarming. I was assigned to ensure everyone in my group remained safe, and now I had a potential missing member. I found myself in the daunting position of reporting the absence of the AWOL team member to the colonel. The response I got was far from what I had expected. He stressed the priority of the operation, a black op that demanded utmost secrecy and focus. The missing team member seemed to become a secondary concern. When I briefed the colonel on Aaron's last known location, the lounge before the power outage, he maintained a stoic demeanor. His orders were clear and concise. I was to file a report, and the necessary authorities would conduct an investigation when deemed appropriate. In that moment, I suddenly realized how expendable we all were. We were pawns in a larger game. Later that evening, James, Mikey, Mary, and I stood outside in the Arctic cold awaiting our transport to our first objective, Base Prometheus. We waited impatiently clustered together in the bone-chilling cold, scanning the snow-covered horizon, eagerly awaiting the arrival of the snow trucks. James nudged me and asked,
"Did you talk to the colonel about Aaron? My bunk buddy has been missing for almost 24 hours.
His voice edged with frustration and concern. I did, but he was almost dismissive. It's obvious that the mission is priority.
Poor Aaron's probably a snowman by now. If we don't watch out for each other, we'll meet the same fate. Listen, I've been conversating with a few individuals around the base. Prior to our arrival here, there was another team, non-military personnel, sent to the Arctic to investigate Prometheus. They reported back to HQ claiming no encounters with opposing forces during their stay. No traces of the Russians or Nazis were found, yet they discovered Prometheus. A day later, all communications ceased, and now we're the secondary team dispatched to uncover what happened.
I'm not surprised. We are all on a need-to-know basis. Mikey, visibly concerned and gripping his wife's hand, looked at me urgently.
Emma, we've got to stick together. The military isn't concerned about our safety. All they want is to seize any tech from Prometheus. You're the expert here. Please, take care of my wife if something goes wrong.
He pleaded. Of course, Mikey. It was a promise I knew was impossible to keep, but I intended to do my best. The distant sound of engines approaching signaled the arrival of the snow trucks. My sole concern now was ensuring the safety of the team present with me.
"See you on the other side, Princess,"
said James as he headed towards the snow trucks, his feet crunching the snow. I settled into the snow truck alongside my team. I watched out the window. The beautiful yet unforgiving landscape was mesmerizing. The snow looked like tiny, delicate crystals, glistening in the moonlight. Memories flooded back of the previous journey. The moment when I glimpsed the solitary figure standing in the vast, desolated environment. It was an eerie sight, yet intriguing. Now, as we traverse the desolate terrain once again, I can't help but think what mysteries await us in Base Prometheus as we press forward into the silent night. My thoughts were abruptly interrupted by a crackling voice over the radio.
All communications are jammed. The OPFOR may be using EWs to jam communications. Only the radios work from here on out.
Roger that. Approaching Tango in 2 mics.
The Antarctic night cloaked us in a blanket of darkness as our snow trucks glided stealthily towards the base known as Prometheus. As we approached, the base emerged from the darkness like a ghostly silhouette against the snowy backdrop. The missing staff added to the mystery that loomed over the base, a feeling of something profoundly wrong. The base stood lifeless, the windows shattered, the headlights, beams from our trucks cut through the night, revealing doors that were hanging ajar. There was an unmistakable chill in the air that had nothing to do with the Antarctic cold. The sense of abandonment weighed heavily, almost as if the base itself held secrets and stories it was desperate to tell. I'd be lying if I didn't say I was scared. We stepped out from our snow trucks, assembling in a huddled group alongside our respective teams. The colonel singled me out, requesting that I join the initial entry team of Special Forces, accompanied by James, the archaeologist, and Mikey. Mikey insisted that his wife remain behind, emphasizing her safety as he urged her to stay close to the trucks. I would have to agree with him. The truth was, our knowledge about the potential hazards lurking within the abandoned base was little at best. The Special Forces led the way. their trained footsteps crunching against the eerie silence. I trailed just behind them, flanked by James and Mikey. The base's walls were weathered and battered by neglect. We cautiously infiltrated the poorly illuminated building. The special forces scanned the darkness with their guns and mounted flashlights piercing through the darkness like beams of concentrated brilliance. The narrow, focused beams of light danced across the walls, revealing scratches that seemed like desperate claw marks and disturbing streaks of dried blood. The special forces moved with precision, their trained eyes scanning every inch, surveying each shadowy corner. My eyes swept across the desolate interior. Broken furniture lay scattered, a forgotten world. Chairs were overturned, computer screens smashed, and eerie patches of dried blood stained the upholstery. I exchanged a tense glance with James. The discoveries we were making painted a haunting picture of a struggle for survival. This was no ordinary abandonment. The silence of our initial entry was now disturbed by the sound of footsteps on broken glass. Each step felt like trespassing deeper into mystery. Mikey glanced back at me. I could tell from the look of panic on his face that he restrained himself from saying 1,000 words of panic and terror, but acknowledged that unspoken communication between us was necessary. We continued cautiously ahead through the unsettling environment until one of the troops in front froze, raising an arm and making a fist with his hand, signaling us to stop. He had made an unexpected discovery that stopped us in our tracks, a taped-off tunnel, leading downwards beneath the snowy ground. The darkness in the tunnel was an abyss that swallowed all the light from our powerful flashlights. I've seen a lot of unnerving things in my life, but nothing compared to what I was feeling in this moment. The soldiers exchanged glances, their expressions hidden behind masks. With a sense of trepidation, we stepped into the darkness swallowing us as we moved forward. My senses were heightened as we pressed on the subterranean passage. Finally, a glimmer of light pierced the darkness. An opening. As we emerged from the tunnel is when I saw it. Something colossal that seemed impossible. A portal. A rift in space that transcended the boundaries of our world. The portal shimmered with otherworldly light. Beyond its threshold lay a sight that defied my comprehension. A glimpse into the vast expanse of space. Twinkling stars and distant galaxies suspended in a breathtaking display. We all stood transfixed by the surreal scenery before us. The soldiers, trained for the unexpected, cautiously surveyed the chamber, their weapons at the ready. The colonel's voice echoed through the chamber, authoritative as he gathered our attention.
Attention, everyone. We have achieved our mission. We discovered the portal Prometheus, but our lack of communication with headquarters poses a significant risk. It's imperative that we evacuate this base immediately.
A gateway through space itself? No wonder our communications are down. I'm surprised anything works with the magnetic anomalies this portal must create,
said Mikey, staring at the portal in awe.
Gather your gear. We need to leave now. Head to the vehicles outside. Move swiftly and stay together,
the colonel commanded. The urgency of his voice left no room for hesitation. James abruptly walked up to me, concerned.
I've got a bad feeling about this. We need to get as far away from here as fast as possible.
We hurried through the corridors, retracing our steps through the base, now more unsettling than ever. As we emerged from the depths of the base into the frigid Antarctic air, the snow trucks stood in a line, waiting like beacons of safety. However, I quickly realized something was terribly wrong. Panic gripped me as I realized the absence of the group that was supposed to be guarding and waiting by trucks. Then the gut-wrenching realization struck. Mikey's wife, Mary, was missing. First Aaron and now Mary. I watched Mikey's world shatter in an instant as he realized his wife was missing in the desolate expanse of Antarctica. The shock across his face quickly transformed into anguish and terror. His eyes darted around the barren landscape, desperately searching for her presence. I could feel his despair of fear and helplessness. Every call for her name was hopeful that she would appear unharmed, but the chilling silence offered no solace.
Mary, where are you? Mary, where are you?
Without hesitation, I rushed to Mikey's side. The look on his face tore my heart. Reaching him, me and James embraced him tightly, wordlessly offering him whatever comfort we could, a shared burden of grief. James murmured words of reassurance.
We will find her, I promise.
Further confusion unsettled the group, as the soldiers noticed a disturbing phenomenon. The trucks, our lifeline to escape, lay motionless, their engines silent as if paralyzed. My mind raced to comprehend the bizarre circumstances surrounding us. I overheard a conversation between a lieutenant and the colonel, discussing a plausible explanation for the immobilized vehicles. It seemed that the nearby portal, hidden beneath the base, was emanating some sort of magnetic field that had rendered the vehicles immobile. It echoed Mikey's earlier explanation within the confines of the base. The colonel summoned me urgently, stressing that our transport was no longer operational, leaving us stranded. He emphasized the critical need to return to our base, underlining the importance of communicating our discoveries to headquarters. Turning to me, he inquired about the feasibility of trekking back on foot through the snow-covered terrain. I explained to him the dangers of hiking back to base on foot was near to impossible. The extreme cold alone poses a severe risk of hyperthermia and frostbite. Then there's whiteouts that could make navigation extremely difficult. Hidden terraces to fall through, risk of accidents getting lost. Pretty impossible. Colonel, our chances of survival hiking back to base through these conditions are slim. It would be a monumental risk, one that could jeopardize the safety of the entire team. The colonel's nod indicated his understanding of the grim reality of our situation.
Given our situation, it seems our only option is to return inside the Prometheus camp and attempt to establish communication with HQ from there. Emma, I need to be quite frank with you. What I'm about to tell you is classified information. This is one of the most secret black projects, and as you have been briefed, failure this time isn't an option. We can't have the contents in that base fall into the wrong hands. My superiors are prepared to authorize a nuclear strike on this location to prevent that outcome. Our safety hinges on my communication with HQ. If they don't receive confirmation that things are under control, they will assume we failed to execute. I hold the PAL, the Permissive Action Link. Only my authorization can prevent the bomb from being deployed.
The weight of the colonel's words weighed upon me. The fate of my team, and the potentially catastrophic repercussions, rested on our ability to establish communication and escape this hellhole. The mere thought of re-entering Prometheus scared me half to death. My teammates were disappearing at an alarming rate. It was all beginning to become too much, but I knew failure wasn't an option. Just when the burden of it all felt unbearable, a flicker of movement caught my eye. A solitary figure in the distance, standing alone in the white Antarctic expanse. A chill ran through me when I recognized the figure, the same mysterious figure I had seen upon my arrival to Antarctica. The figure remained motionless, observing me from a distance, a haunting silhouette. I noticed the colonel also had his gaze fixed on the distant figure. His acknowledgement of its presence validated that it wasn't a figment of my imagination. The colonel quickly signaled to his troops, the elite special forces, to pursue the figure. They dashed through the deep snow, their strides carrying them closer to the silhouette. Yet, as they closed the distance, I noticed the figure stood unfazed by their approach. There was an eerie calmness about it. There was more to this thing than meets the eye. Before I could see what transpired, the colonel commanded my team and me to go retreat and seek shelter inside the base for our safety. As the sound of gunfire erupted, James grabbed my hand, urging me towards the base. However, I resisted. I couldn't leave without Mikey. I quickly rushed up to him and pleaded for him to join us for safety, but my efforts were in vain.
I'm going to wait here in case Mary comes back,
he said, his gaze fixed on me with teary eyes. I persisted, urging him to reconsider.
Emma, I said no. I'm not going to leave without my wife.
With a heavy heart, I let James pull me away. As James led me towards the base, my eyes remained fixed on Mikey, each step taking us further away from him, his figure slowly fading away into the snowy distance. We re-entered the forsaken base. The sight of blood-covered walls served as a grim reminder of the severity of our situation. Time was slipping away like sand through an hourglass. The looming threat of freezing to death lingered, to make things worse by the imminent danger of a potential nuclear strike if we failed to establish communication with HQ. I could still hear the muffled noise of gunshots from outside where that thing was, together with our sabotaged means of escape. I had to figure out a way to escape. James and I frantically searched the desolate rooms and desks that lay littered with papers, confidential documents scattered haphazardly, writing utensils, stationery, and eyeglasses scattered in disarray. While I continued digging through the chaotic mess of desk drawers and obstacles, James called out for me. He beckoned for me with a sense of urgency. He had found something. James had discovered another opening in the wall hidden within the shadows behind upturned furniture. It offered ample space for him to pass through. The last tunnel we had traversed had the shocking discovery of a space-bending portal, and I wondered what dangers lurked down this one. Considering the circumstances, we didn't really have a choice, so we came to a speechless agreement to go investigate. We entered the tunnel cautiously. The walls seemed to have been crafted with the accuracy of a laser, engineering that left me astounded. Such precise construction was beyond anything I had encountered or heard of before. As we advanced a few feet in, the tunnel branched off into multiple directions, unveiling a secret labyrinth hidden within the ice. I was a bit apprehensive to continue creeping in. I feared getting lost in the network of tunnels, as me and James stood at an intersection, deciding which tunnel to explore. I suggested to him that we should stay together for safety in numbers, and we didn't know what to expect beyond this point. This was quite literally uncharted territory. With our torches guiding us, we examined the pathways, deciding which route would be best, and making a mental note: how to return to our current location. It was quite pointless making a decision based on discernible differences. Both tunnels mirrored each other identically. Suddenly, the sound of approaching footsteps could be heard through one of the tunnels, instilling a wave of fear within me. Could it be one of those entities from the outside, drawing near? Although unequipped with military weapons, I clutched onto an ice axe, preparing for whatever imminent reveal might unfold. I observed James doing the same. Emerging from the shadows, a startling sight greeted us. It was Aaron. Aaron, missing since last night's dinner at our base's lounge, now stood before us. What the hell was he doing all the way out here?
Aaron, what are you doing down there? Where have you been, man?
Called out James, excited to see his roommate. Aaron's response was devoid of any enthusiasm. On seeing us, his blank expression remained unchanged as he stood motionless.
Aaron, are you okay there, buddy? I'm excited to see you too,
said James sarcastically, slowly approaching Aaron with intent to understand his mysterious disappearance. James extended a hand to offer assistance, however, in a horrifying turn of events, Aaron lashed out. Without warning, he thrust a sharp object in James's direction, attempting to stab him. Aaron's body contorted in an unnatural manner, his arm extending and bending in a way that seemed to defy the limitations of a human joint, almost as if he possessed additional joints beyond the standard elbow. But I was filled with the feeling of shock and disbelief as James staggered backwards, narrowly avoiding the blade. A look of confusion and fear spread across his face. When James steadied himself after nearly stumbling, he swiftly took my hand and guided me into a tunnel leading in the opposite direction. As we ran forward, I glanced over my shoulder to check if Aaron was pursuing us. I strained to see or hear any signs of his presence, but there was no sight or sound of him following us. Believing we were safe, I resisted, pulling back on James's hand. Hold on, James, I don't think he's following us.
The guy tried to kill me. That was my bunk buddy. Did you see the way he moved? I don't think that's Aaron anymore,
said James, hunched over, trying to catch his breath. He definitely wasn't human, but then I came to a horrifying realization. Did you ever have any meaningful conversations with Aaron?
Not that I recall. Why do you ask?
James replied, puzzled. Try to remember, because thinking back, I've never heard him speak. Did he ever introduce himself or talk about his family?
It's strange. I don't remember any of that. Are you suggesting this guy was never human? That he was something from another world pretending to be part of our group the entire time?
Yes, James, that's exactly what I'm suggesting. A look of terror dawned on James's face as he grasped the gravity of the situation.
Imagine, Emma, that was my bunk buddy, and that thing could have attacked me when I was sleeping.
I'm stunned. He was among us the entire time, completely unnoticed, and no one questioned his identity. After regaining my breath, I pressed on, leading the way through the tunnel. As we delved deeper, the darkness intensified, even overpowering the reach of our flashlights. With their feeble light no longer sufficient, I had to resort to lighting a flare to illuminate our path. Clasping the flare tightly in one hand, I wielded the striker with the other. As the sharp sound of the striker's scratch filled the air, a burst of heat erupted, igniting the flare into a vivid, intense red glow. James cautiously followed close behind as we ventured forward, the radiant glow of the flare casting eerie shadows in the vast expanse of the cave before us. With caution, James and I entered the cave's entrance, an unusual feeling of familiarity washing over me. Exploring caves was something I'd always been accustomed to, a sense of comfort in the unknown. Gripping the flare tightly, its vivid red glow offering a semblance of reassurance, I exchanged a look with James. I was torn between the excitement of discovering a potential solution to escape and a fear of the unknown, uncertain of what otherworldly entity or discovery awaited us. The cave's interior was a tapestry of shadows, the light from our flares bouncing off the rocky walls, creating eerie shapes that seemed to dance in the periphery of our vision. Each step echoed faintly, a reminder of the cavern's enormous size. Suddenly, the ground beneath my feet emitted a distinct sound, unlike the usual crunch of ice or rock. It sounded like metal. Observing the unusual sound, James knelt down, examining the ground closely. The eerie glow from my flare revealed a reflective metallic surface under our feet. My heart raced as I traced the metallic structure, realizing its vastness. And there it was, a sight that left us both speechless. An otherworldly craft lay nestled beneath our feet. Its flawless, seamless surface appeared as if crafted from a single piece of metal, without any visible signs of welding or separation. The precision and craftsmanship mirrored the unfathomable engineering seen in the ancient Egyptian pyramids, millions of limestone blocks, each weighing tons, stacked with unparalleled accuracy. Is that? I started, my voice barely audible in our shared awe.
An alien spaceship,
James concluded. We stood there, captivated by the sight before us. It was a moment frozen in time, a discovery that would rewrite our understanding of the universe. Meanwhile, James remained on his knees, marveling at the craft's metal surface, a grin across his face like that of a man possessed by revelation.
This changes everything. All those who doubted my theories, it's all bloody validated now,
he said, inspecting the ship with an almost frenzied look in his eyes. My priority now was to inform the Colonel and assessing the situation with the mysterious figure that had trailed us outside in the snow. I urged James to accompany me back outside the caves and the base to rendezvous with the Colonel. Initially lost in the discovery, James didn't respond. It took a raised voice to snap him out of his trance, and he rose to his feet. We navigated cautiously through the labyrinth of tunnels, mindful to avoid encountering Aaron, or what was now unmistakably not human but likely an extraterrestrial entity. Once outside again in the unforgiving Arctic cold, we were greeted by the desolate, icy expanse with an eerie absence of any soul in sight. The Colonel, Mikey, and the rest were missing. Where in the world had everyone vanished? It was inconceivable that they would abandon us with the snow trucks, especially since the vehicles were still there. Scanning the white barren horizon, I found no trace of life, except I spotted something out of place. The mysterious figure, standing distantly, observing us with an unsettling aura. I had a sinking feeling. I knew that it was connected to the disappearance of my comrades, including Mikey and his wife, Mary. James, gripping my gloved hand once more, interrupted my thoughts.
Emma, I know you said our chances of hiking back to base were slim, but given this situation, I'd rather take my chances on foot,
he urged, staring at the figure. As we tried to run through the thick snow, I occasionally glanced over my shoulder to look back at the mysterious figure in the distance. I also gave one last look back at the eerie base. I noticed Aaron stood ominously in the doorway. His unsettling gaze fixated on us as we hastened toward the trucks to salvage any supplies for our improbable journey back to base. Suddenly, without warning, my foot collided with something concealed beneath the snow, causing me to stumble and tumble, and the soft snow cushioned my fall. Ensuring I escaped without any injury, James assisted me to stand. His eyes fixated on the figures behind us, both Aaron and the mysterious figure, still motionless. As I regained my footing, I inspected what had caused my stumble beneath the snow. To my dreadful realization, I found a frozen hand, followed by a face frozen in a state of terror. The eyes and mouth were wide open, portraying an expression of excruciating fear. It was the lifeless body of our teammate, Mikey, lying motionless. I had inadvertently tripped over Mikey's murdered and frozen body. Once we reached the snow trucks, James and I tried to start it up to no avail. We salvaged what we could from the truck: some flares, a couple bottles of alcohol, sunscreen, some food, and insulated flasks of water. We packed them urgently into our waterproof backpacks and began our hike back to base. As James and I trudged through the vast Antarctic snow, each step felt like a monumental effort. The relentless cold was becoming unbearable. Fatigue was weighing in, especially for James. He was continuously falling behind, and I was using up a lot of my energy to help him back up and motivate him to continue. Despite my best efforts to press onward, exhaustion began to conquer James. Struggling to catch his breath, James turned to me and said the last thing I wanted to hear.
Go on without me, Emma. I can't make it any further.
His words carried the weight of defeat. No, James, we're almost there. Please, we must keep going. We can't give up now.
You know, kiddo, we would have made a bloody good team together.
We are a good team, James, I said, holding him in my arms. He smiled back at me and closed his eyes. James, his body succumbing to exhaustion, drifted into a sleep slumber, the cold claiming him. I waited by his body. I didn't want to leave him out here alone, but I had to reach safety. I made the heartbreaking decision to leave James behind. With the tears freezing on my cheeks, I whispered a sorrowful farewell, promising to return his body if I ever made it out alive. I continued my journey through the Arctic, determined to survive despite the isolation and cold, despite the things that were out there, probably hunting me down.